every time we talk about school threats, whether it's in the news or in the show or during the show, it always leads to the question: Does mental health get involved in this? The answer is yes. And when someone makes a threat, it can really affect their mental health. So let's take a look at this.
But the big story this Friday night at 6 o'clock. The fall school semester now in the books, but many schools have seen threats of a shooting or actually seen students bringing guns onto campus. While there is a criminal angle to these incidents, Team 12's Colleen Sikora shows us how school shootings across America are now starting to take a mental toll on students here in Arizona.
It's a sight we've seen several times this year.
There's a lockdown.
Parents waiting for students put on lockdown after threats of a weapon on campus, threats of a shooting, or even a student bringing a gun to campus.
Teachers got emails that this was real, so we were kind of scared.
In some situations, students in Arizona facing charges for bringing guns to school.
When I'm prosecuting cases where somebody has really kind of gone off the rails, really, with behavior, you look back at it, and there were so many warning signs.
Rachel Mitchell is the Maricopa County attorney, suggesting better security and more mental health resources are needed.
Maybe what that informs us to do is to do better education about what we should be looking for so that we can intervene in an earlier point before this type of thing happens. But if they're bent on, to doing that, they're going to find a way.
With students who have brought a gun to school, marriage and family therapist Victoria Sechrist says there could be something deeper going on in students' lives.
And it could be that maybe they have a more serious mental health condition as well, but you really don't know unless you're able to take that time to assess, what was your intention with this? What is really going on?
Just this month, Cactus Shadows High School placed on lockdown after a student believed to have seen another student carrying a revolver in a parking lot. Police later found out it was actually a laptop.
That example, I think, just really lays out that kids aren't feeling safe.
Sechrist says access to social media and live videos of school shooting situations across the country have affected how safe kids feel.
It's a real experience that they're going through, and that I imagine a lot of different kids are going through right now.
Saying these situations need to be talked about between parents and students.
I see more hope in that, right? Because we're not ignoring what is occurring on a societal level or within the school or at home, right? We're able to just open it up and say, hey, how is this impacting you?
Colleen Sikora, 12 News.
And it really can help affect those. So, yes, we probably do need some help with this. So, yeah. Now there's an arraignment scheduled to what happened back in December 9th. Take a look at this.
Arraignment is scheduled for today of the 18-year-old who police say made threats against Sammamish High School. That was on December 9th. The man has been in custody since he was arrested at his Seattle home after that lockdown later that day. He will make his first court appearance at 8:30 this morning.
So which is good. He needs to learn that there's consequences. And if he continues doing this, I get you guys don't want to go to school. I get it. But that still doesn't justify the facts here. Like somebody spray painting graffiti on school property. Like this clip.
Tonight at 11, Montgomery County Police are looking for who... This time, it happened at Walt Whitman High School in Bethesda. The message, Jews not welcome, was spray painted on a sign just days after the school had a lesson trying to confront anti-Semitism. Rafael Sanchez Cruz spoke to a Jewish student at Whitman who is saying that graffiti is just a symptom of an even greater issue.
The words Jews not welcome have been scrubbed off this sign at Walt Whitman High School. The message still lingers for Jewish students like Rachel Barrett.
There's a whole bunch of Whitman kids pooled together, and we all opened our phones at the same time, and you could hear kids just saying, oh my God, check your emails. Because everyone was just in shock of what happened.
Montgomery County Police say the anti-Semitic graffiti was found this morning, just 3 days after the school led a lesson on confronting anti-Semitism. This behavior is abhorrent, extremely hurtful, and will not be tolerated, said Principal Dr. Robert Dodd in a letter to the community.
It is irrational, it's
racist,
and it's fueled by really ignorant people.
Elected officials at every level have condemned the vandalism. County Council President Evan Glass tweeted out that yesterday, a swastika was also found at Montgomery Mall in Bethesda, adding, "My heart is breaking. We must end the rise of Jew hatred in our community."
It's time that we open everyone's eyes about the fact that Whitman is not this accepting, blissful place that everybody thinks it is. We have real problems with anti-Semitism, racism, xenophobia in general.
This 9th grader says the recent graffiti is just a symptom of a greater issue. In 2020, Montgomery County Police charged 3 teens after a news and racial slur were found painted on a wall at Walt Whitman High School.
Seeing people like Kanye West, Nick Fuentes, they're saying all of this anti-Semitic stuff, but the root of anti-Semitism, modern day anti-Semitism obviously, is Holocaust denial.
Rachel says that same rhetoric is trickling down among her classmates. That's why the student group Jews for Change are staging a walkout on Thursday, demanding their concerns about anti-Semitism be addressed. Rafael Sanchez Cruz, WUSA 9.
That's just outrageous and racist. It's racist that someone would spray paint. It's vandalism and it's racist. Somebody's got to pay the price. Still ahead, Uvalde has failed their safety inspection because of what happened. We'll tell you what happened. If you ever heard about MSG, you got to meet a kid who had MSG, and he'll tell you the things he cannot have. But first, imagine a teacher's attire. That's what happened. That's what happened yesterday, where parents are threatening legal action against the school district if a staff dress code is not implemented. So the question is, what are teachers allowed to wear, and what teachers are not allowed to wear? We're going to find out next. Please stay with us. Can you ever imagine enforcing a dress code for staff members at a school? I certainly can't. It happened on Thursday where parents are threatening a lawsuit to the school board for that teacher's attire. But now the school says it just be discriminatory. Teachers can wear whatever they want. They got nice dresses and all. They can wear a spirit shirt, pants, and shoes. They can also wear high heels, whatever they want. That's for the females. The males, closed-toed shoes, pants, shirts, dress shirts, whatever. And now the lawyer is involved in this, so what can be done? Take a look.
And parents are threatening legal action against the Halton District School Board if a staff dress code is not implemented. A lawyer tells CHH News that he was contacted by 3 parents who are upset about this shop teacher's attire and want the school board to ensure staff abide by dress policy too. This teacher has made international headlines for the way they dress, but despite the controversy, the board says a dress code for teachers would likely be considered discriminatory. The Halton School Board tells CHH News that in addition to the Human Rights Code, a statutory freeze prohibits employers from altering working conditions during collective agreement negotiations. Lawyer Rishi Badhu says, even so, the board needs to take into consideration the concerns of parents.
I think the concern relates to the inappropriateness on its face of this attire, right? There is a student dress code, and that student dress code articulates a number of values and beliefs about not having obscenity or pornography, and it expressly says that clothing should not show nipples. Parents have concerns about this, and they've tried to articulate those concerns through school council meetings. And the response of the board has been, effectively, it's none of your business. This is an HR matter. It's an operational matter.
Badu says that he has asked the board if the student dress code applies to staff, and if it doesn't, why not? He has yet to receive a response on that. Students and staff have had to deal with ongoing threats towards Oakville Trafalgar High School over the last few months. The board says it continues to take pride in its inclusiveness and respect that staff and students have demonstrated during this time.
So the question is, what are teachers allowed to wear and what are teachers not allowed to wear? Now, we focus on dress codes a lot of times on the students, and many females have said that it's discriminatory against them because they can't wear this, but boys can't wear that. But teachers? Give me a break. So let's look at the dress code importance from work.chrome.com. Parents and school administrators sometimes have different views than their children's teachers about what is appropriate in their classroom attire. Clearly, certain aspects of the job, keeping up with active youngsters, overseeing messy art projects, going outdoors for recess, support more relaxed dress requirements than professionals such as banking or law. But views differ on how to strike that balance between comfort and practicality on that one hand, and professionalism and appropriateness on the other. Some schools are adding primary school staff to dress code codify this balance. Excuse me. But for elementary dress codes for elementary teachers are commonalities. Male teachers should wear collared shirts with tailored pants. Shirts must be tucked in, but ties and jackets are usually not required unless meeting with parents or administrators. Female teachers may wear tailored pants or skirts with according to blouses or sweaters. And the Lakewood Public School District explains that clothing the clothing should be modest, not too tight, and appropriate to the season. But what not to wear? Whether elementary school has specific guidelines on teacher attire or not, some clothing choices are never appropriate. T-shirts and sweats don't belong in the classroom, nor do shorts. Tight jeans and pants and short skirts are not appropriate, nor sleeveless or skimpy tops or anything torn. Bearing a midway for showing too much skin is never okay. Newly minted young teachers must take what can be difficult to transition from comfy and casual clothes they wore in college and the trendy eye-catching styles they wear in social settings to add third category of clothing to their wardrobe. Tailored, perhaps more conservative attire in keeping with their new positions as professionals and role models for young children. Now, the 14 ridiculous rules for teachers you won't believe are real, but they are real. If they float, you can't wear them. No hats, even on recess duty. Can't be fair. You must dress as a team. Plenty of schools require teachers to wear some type of uniform, but what about the uniform that's so familiar? This is from weareteachers.com. Rule 4 is women must wear pantyhose and we will do random checks. Okay. No jeans, ever. Even on work days, no students. Ankles must be covered with, and no pants with pockets. Okay? If you show your feet, toenails must be polished. Female teachers must wear makeup, and only certain shades of lipstick. Thou shalt not roll up your sleeves. No Uggs. Okay? Leave your hoodies at home. Avoid comfortable clothing. No belly buttons allowed. Even, it may not be funny, but it is true. You can't be showing your belly buttons. No dark underwear. This sounds pretty funny, but it is too real. No underwear. What you gotta do? Just wear your pants and white. You know, wear light underwear and wear dark pants. They'd be like twerking on the TV for your secret webcam shows. And then your husband goes on more saying, I got her twerking on the right. And then we going, what a life. Our principal said, that's what criminals wear, so I wore one to our staff photo. Smooth criminal indeed. This is just ridiculous for teachers. Instead, they were told to give their email, and it wasn't hot enough for them. A lot of water to sleep. I mean, if it's okay, it's okay. But my life is complete. Focusing on student dress codes and teacher dress codes. What a life. What a life. Ain't no life if there's MSG. Coming up next, this kid said he had a diagnosis where he had too much MSG. What is MSG and how can you avoid it? Ed Bradley with the MSG buzz. Then later, Uvalde's back on the news. Days ago, they failed an inspection for their security. Please stay with us. As you know, it's been 7 months since the horrible massacre at Uvalde. There is now an update from theweek.com. Uvalde fails a safety inspection just 7 months after the mass shooting. A safety inspector posing as an intruder was able to access a school cafeteria in Uvalde through an improperly locked door. The school district superintendent said Monday. The failed inspection comes half a year after a gunman entered Robb Elementary School in Uvalde through a door that was supposed to be locked, killing 19 children and 2 teachers. The interim superintendent told a crowd of parents during a board meeting that the inspection had taken place at multiple schools in December as well as an ongoing safety audit. The audits were part of a statewide program initiated by the governor following the shooting this past May. They tested 3 schools in the Uvalde district, and the names of those tested were not divulged, while 2 of the schools passed. An inspector was able to enter the third through the door in the school's loading dock that was left ajar while delivery was in progress. The fake intruder was able to make it through the school's cafeteria, which was empty at the time, before being stopped by school staff members. The failed inspection comes even as the school district has reportedly spent millions shooting up its security protocols in the 7 months since that massacre. So, you gotta do better. I mean, I'm Employee of the Year. As Employee of the Year, I step up to the plate and get shit done. I don't turn my head and cough. I don't sit up here and get bored. I do my best and get shit together. Unlike people in the Oxford community, from Detroit News, a lawyer for the high school district and staff asked federal judge to dismiss civil lawsuits filed in connection with one of the nation's deadliest campus shootings, claiming officials were not fully responsible for qualified immunity, shielding them from liability. The motion focuses on arguments raised in the lawsuits filed by the families of the victims and survivors on November 30th. They left 4 children dead and wounded 6 others. The drawings, the evidence is there, but still, we don't know. Next year, the parents are going to be at trial, and now the district wants those lawsuits dismissed because of what happened. But we don't know. We gotta wait. And now they're saying, well, we don't know. We don't want this happening again. You know what you did. Y'all know exactly what you did. You failed. You failed. You did not tell the truth. You failed. You failed. You failed to help out. You failed. You let him go back to class. He had the gun. You did not search him. The parents are angry. You did not let him. You let him. You didn't know there was a gun in there. You let him walk. You let him go back to class. You forgot to call his mother. That's what the lawsuit says. There's lots of lawsuits. The argues that school officials, including teachers who interacted with criminally before the shooting, are not responsible for what happened. Well, no shit. No shit. You knew exactly what you did. Don't try to reverse the wheels here. You knew what you did, so don't reverse the wheels here. You knew exactly what you did. You got to look back on this and say, I'm sorry, we screwed up, we'll do better, it will never happen again. What happened to common sense? Whatever happened to searching backpacks? I mean, you got the clear backpacks and they took away lockers. That's good enough. But still, that doesn't justify the fact that you forgot to search Ethan's damn backpack for that gun. And had you got that and he would have shot, then those kids might still be alive and you would be successful. You'd be the hero. But no. You ignored him. You failed. And you may think I'm just jumping to conclusions. This is what the media has wrote down, and this is what I'm repeating. So don't try to reverse the wheels here. Get it together. The safety deposit board were about those ex-members. I'm glad those ex-members came forward to tell their sides of the story. They could prove their case. They blew the whistle. District failed, and now you're gonna pay the price. You're gonna pay the price. You knew what you did. Now you're gonna pay the piper. You may settle, but the loss is still happening. There ain't no way you can do this. The wheels have already turned. You can't reverse the wheels. The wheels have turned. I support the victims and the people at Oxford. I don't live in Oxford. If I did, I damn well know what's going on. I do know. Coming up next, the MSG buzz. This kid has MSG, a certain amount. If he eats too much of it, his nose will clog up. We're going to tell you a list of foods that have MSG and how you can avoid it. Please stay with us. Among the labels on the supermarket shelves, you can now find those that say no MSG. So why does a major food company like Campbell's, for instance, feel it necessary to tell you that some of their products contain no MSG? And more than that, what is MSG? Monosodium glutamate. You may remember it from back in the 60s. That's when most of us heard about the salt-like substance and can give you what was then called MSG buzz. Well, it's come a long way, and its use in food is at an all-time high. Over 100 million pounds were consumed years ago. So, what foods are in MSG, and how can you avoid it? You're about to meet a kid who had MSG, and who's going to walk us through the foods that he cannot eat. Here's Ed Bradley.
It's in canned soups, dry soups, bouillon, nearly all bottled sauces and gravy mixes. It's in most salad dressings and canned meats. It's even in diet foods, frozen dinners, and pizzas. Hot dogs and lunch meats have it, microwave meals, and almost every kind of snack. Restaurants, airlines, and even hospitals routinely use it. And fast foods are full of it. Food companies that use it say it's safe, and for most people it is. But millions are suffering a host of symptoms, and some get violently sick.
If I eat a certain amount of it, my nose gets clogged up and my throat, and I start wheezing.
Last year, Sam Kastick got so sick he had to be rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis? Reaction to MSG.
When I complained about stomach aches, they did exploratory surgery. When I started to sleep a lot, they hospitalized me for narcolepsy.
By the time doctors found out that Dolores Nick's problems were due to MSG, they had removed her gallbladder and appendix.
The range of reactions is amazing to me as a physician. Asthma, heart palpitations, headache, dizziness.
Dr. George Schwartz is a toxicologist who has studied the adverse effects of MSG for more than 10 years. In addition to several medical textbooks, he's written a book for laymen on MSG. He says that, contrary to what we're being led to believe, MSG is not simply a seasoning that makes food taste better.
The difficulty is it goes in people's systems and it has tremendous effects throughout their body.
Because of his activism, he's become a thorn in the side of the food industry and the FDA. But Dr. Schwartz is not alone. There have been many published studies by doctors and scientists discussing the adverse effects of MSG. There is a lot of evidence that it causes headaches. This study from the Eastern Virginia Medical School. According to other studies, MSG can cause swelling as well as chest pains, a burning sensation, and an overall feeling of weakness. Dr. Rafe Lara from the Harvard Medical School writes of dangers to children. Still, another report, this one from 2 Australian scientists, says it provokes asthma. And Dr. John Olney, a professor at the Washington University School of Medicine, who has published more than 200 studies and papers, says that his 20 years of research with laboratory animals shows MSG is a hazard for developing youngsters.
I think it definitely poses a threat to infants and children. I think it poses a threat of causing irreversible brain damage to immature humans.
There's simply no point in alarming the public about a situation that they need not be alarmed about from a health standpoint.
That's been the position of the Food and Drug Administration for the last 30 years. Michael Taylor is the newly appointed Deputy Commissioner for Policy. The FDA continues to agree with the food industry that MSG poses no health problems, and they have no plans to take it off the list of safe ingredients.
The FDA has been aware of studies that have been done and papers that have been written by doctors and scientists around the country saying that MSG causes all sorts of adverse reactions. Yet the agency has chosen to believe studies that say the contrary, that MSG is okay, and disregard the body of work that says just the opposite. Why is that?
Well, your question suggests that there's some equal balance in the scientific literature on this question. That's simply not the case. There's a very large volume of evidence, scientific studies conducted around the world that demonstrates that these very broad kinds of reactions simply are not attributable to MSG.
So these people who have these reactions, it's what, psychosomatic or something?
There could be any number of explanations for the reactions that are being reported.
Why else would someone be so devastatingly sick, and when you eliminate it, you're so well?
Dolores Nick's doctor told us that when she stays off MSG, she feels fine. But for years, before they knew what her problem was, it was disabling for her.
I never knew when I would collapse. I knew that something was shutting down on me, but when you are just laying there and you're unable to talk, I often wondered if I was ever going to come out of it. It was terrible. It's like I'm a dynamo, really, when I stay off this stuff.
So why doesn't she just stay off it? It's not as easy as it might seem. Pure MSG must be labeled. That's an FDA regulation. The problem is a lot of food companies mix it with other ingredients. It can be hidden under a variety of different names like sodium caseinate, autolyzed yeast. Even natural flavorings can contain it. It's always in hydrolyzed protein, and it shows up in some foods you'd never dream of, like tuna fish.
So you can come into a supermarket and read a label. If you read the label on this, if you don't know that it's in hydrolyzed protein, you think you're getting tuna fish that has no MSG in it. That's right. And it has MSG in it. Right.
At present, there's no limit to the amount of MSG that can be put in food. Because it's added under different names, you can get several doses of MSG in the same product. So unless you know what to look for, you could have a problem.
Sam, take a look at this one. I think you could have this.
Sam Kastic and his grandfather Rich had no idea that the food in their supermarket could be a health risk.
Ooh, natural flavoring.
Can't have that.
But when Sam was hospitalized with a severe asthma attack, the doctor said he was reactive to MSG. And almost everything he'd been eating had MSG in it.
Oh, can have it.
Why are we hearing about this now? I mean, we used to hear what people used to call the Chinese restaurant syndrome. People would get an MSG buzz, and then it sort of went away. But now all of a sudden we're hearing about it all over again.
If you look at the 1960s, when you first heard about that, probably 10 to 15 times the quantity of MSG is now being added to our food.
Why so much more now?
Flavor enhancement has gotten to be big business. Let's say you and I form our own company, and we have a big vat of our soup right here, and you put in 20 chickens and 10 heads of celery and things of that sort. Okay, now what if somebody comes along and says, forget about your 20 chickens, put in 10 chickens, and instead put in a pound of this stuff, and you're going to get a very similar flavor profile.
And this stuff will cost less than
This stuff
chickens.
costs less than $1 a pound. Chickens are expensive, MSG is cheap.
Are there other reasons for using MSG besides the economic bottom line? We thought that was a good question. A host of major food companies wouldn't answer it. Heinz wouldn't. The makers of Chef Boyardee refused. Progresso said no. Accent, no. The Lipton Company refused. The Campbell Soup Company also said no. We then turned to the Glutamate Association, an organization that promotes the use of MSG. They told us there's nothing wrong with MSG, it's perfectly safe to use. However, they wouldn't talk to us on camera either. They did give us a list of 5 doctors. One of them was Dr. Fred Atkins, an allergist, who wanted us to know he doesn't represent the Glutamate Association.
What is it that MSG does in food? Why put MSG in food?
It's described to be a flavor enhancer so that it improves the taste of certain foods, supposedly.
It makes it taste better.
Right.
Forgetting that it makes the food taste better. Put that aside. Are there any positive benefits from using MSG?
I don't know of any, no.
You don't know of any?
No.
Then why add it if people are getting sick from it?
Well, I think it depends. First of all, are people really getting sick from it? And if some are, is it a small group of people or is it a large group of people?
The estimates of how many are affected vary widely. Many doctors we spoke to said there could be a significant segment of the population that has experienced symptoms. Even the food industry acknowledges 2%. And 2% means 5 million people. Dr. John Olney is convinced many more are at risk.
I'm talking about risk to infants and children. That makes up a very large percentage of the population.
It was Dr. Olney's research showing possible danger to infants that led to the removal of MSG from baby food back in the 70s. He's concerned about children today who are exposed to unregulated amounts of the food they love most, fast food and snacks.
Those are mine. Leave them alone.
10-year-old Jeremy Laros had been diagnosed as hyperactive, failing in school, and had been subjected to everything from drug therapy to special education programs. But nothing helped.
I couldn't get my work done and stuff, and so the teachers were always yelling at me. And everybody was teasing me because when they thought that I had attention deficit disorder, other children didn't want to be around him.
Julie Laros was ready to give up. For 5 years, her son Jeremy was angry and aggressive toward his schoolmates and family.
He was miserable because he couldn't cope with his own behavior.
Jeremy's family took him to Dr. Schwartz, who told them to remove all MSG from his diet. Almost immediately, there were dramatic changes. His hyperactivity disappeared, his grades dramatically improved, and so did his relationships with friends and family.
Yes, I'm okay. We lost him for 5 years, and we have him back. And he's a wonderful, delightful, beautiful, bright child, and it was a long, hard search.
Let me ask you to get to the nut of this thing. Would you like to have more studies?
Yes, I would.
Now, you're the person the Glutamate Association sent us to see. And you think there should be more studies?
I think there should be more studies, yes, particularly in patients who complain of difficult reactions after MSG. I think it's a small group.
But enough people in our population so that perhaps there is a problem that we need to do something about. At least we need to find out.
I think it requires further study.
Several food companies have told us that because of consumer complaints, they're removing the pure MSG from their products. But when we questioned whether they were also removing the hidden sources of MSG, they told us they weren't sure.
Do consumers have a right, for example, to go to a grocery store or a restaurant and be able to know that the food that they're about to eat won't make them sick?
We think the current rules governing disclosure of MSG are adequate to inform consumers from a health standpoint about the presence of MSG.
Having said that, Mr. Taylor went on to announce that the FDA is about to propose a change in the rules that would require that hydrolyzed protein be labeled to say it contains MSG. But what about all those other ways MSG is hidden in foods? Will they also be labeled?
You can see a label that says sodium caseinate. There can be some MSG in that. It will say autolyzed yeast. There can be some MSG in that. It can say natural flavorings. Those natural flavorings can contain glutamates, MSG. So, under the new regulation, the new law, will all of those categories have to say this includes MSG?
When MSG is present in another food ingredient at significant and functional levels, where the MSG is having itself a flavor-enhancing function in the product, the answer is yes. I'm not prepared to tell you, with respect to each of those examples, that that's the case, but that's part of what will be resolved in the rulemaking process.
The FDA says this process will take at least a year. In the meantime, what about the consumer who wants to avoid MSG? At least for now, you're on your own. When we recently spoke to the FDA for a progress report, they told us nothing's changed.
Wow. Probably nothing's changed. So now that you figured out saying you're on your own, how can you also avoid MSG? Up next, I'm going to give you a list of tips on WikiHow how you can avoid MSG. Please stay with us. We're talking about MSG, monosodium glutamate. It's found in fast foods, canned soups, pizzas, etc. But how can you avoid it? Here's some methods from WikiHow. Method number 1 is avoiding MSG in daily life. The first tip is avoid non-food products that may contain MSG, like soaps, shampoos, and hair conditioners. If the ingredients contain the words hydrolyzed, protein, or amino acids, some medicines, vitamins, and dietary supplements have MSG in the binders and fillers. Check with the pharmacist if you're unsure. Ask questions that we need to know. Eat a fresh, natural diet. Instead of flavoring salt and prepackaged seasonings, try fresh spices and herbs to flavor your food. It's almost every processed food, which means you buy every packaged food more than likely will end up in some MSG in your food. Buy fresh fruits and vegetables and only use basic seasonings such as salt and pepper. Cook for yourself. Buy fresh ingredients instead of canned or processed. Avoid common food products that contain small amounts of MSG if you're highly sensitive to MSG. Low-fat, fat-free foods, rich foods, vitamin-based and rich foods, cornstarch, fruit starch, corn syrup, liquidized butter, fat, dextrose, brown syrup, milk powder, 1% and 2% milk. Now we focus on the first method. Here's the second method, avoiding MSG at the grocery store. Read the labels. Don't trust no MSG in the front box. MSG is labeled in many different ways on the label. Learn other ways food manufacturers label MSG. While a product may have no MSG, this does not mean it's MSG free. The other ways MSG is in your food. Look for any products with ingredients: processed glutamic acid, monosodium glutamate, calcium nitrate, glutamic acid, sodium castrate, hydrolyzed yeast, flavoring enhancers, like we talked about. Watch out for salty snacks like flavored chips, crackers, nuts, Doritos, Cheetos, flavored potatoes with MSG in it. Avoid deli meats. Chicken, sausages contain MSG. Be wary of dressings. Ranch dressings always have MSG, but most other salad dressings do too. In addition to dressing, be wary of vegetable dips. Pay attention to soy sauce, Parmesan cheese, gravies, and dipping sauces. Pay attention to broths and soups, like chicken broth, beef broth, whatever, etc. The third method is avoid MSG when eating out. Tell servers you want your food without MSG. Second method is to avoid certain foods when eating out, like vegetable broths, breads, dressings, soy products, sweeteners, and flavors. Watch out for fast food, such as McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, pizza, Chick-fil-A. All put MSG in your foods. If you're curious about which particular items have MSG, go to the restaurant's website and look at the ingredient list. And here are the warnings. Vegetables, grains, and fruits may have MSG because food growers sometimes spray their produce with a product containing processed free glutamic acid to increase crop yields. There's no way to tell if your produce is MSG except by testing. Wash fruits and vegetables thoroughly before eating. Read infant formula labels carefully, as sometimes an infant formula may contain MSG. That's one way of putting it. So if you avoid MSG, you too can be healthy. I'll be back in a moment. Christmas is almost here, and here's a list of issues that I put on the naughty list. Kids who make school threats, on the naughty list. Kids who bring guns to school, on the naughty list. Kids who bully in school, naughty list. Kids who report bullying, nice. Kids who stand up for themselves, naughty/nice. The list just goes on. You know, in some cases here, we help out every now and then. Our goal in life is to make sure that we become good citizens in this community by doing whatever we can to pitch in, whether it's getting a job, helping out the community, helping the homeless, giving shelter, or whatever. But with everything that's happened, not all of us have gotten the picture here. So look at the bigger picture here, and maybe you'll understand what the heck is going on. At least for now, many people are not going out because of the big freeze. It may happen for a couple of days, or maybe even a few days, but as long as we pitch in and listen to what the weather says, we all do what we must. And if we avoid MSG altogether, then we too can live forever. Or as Mark Chestnut says, live to be 100. Lay off all that salt, avoid those burgers and fries, cook yourself. Use herbs and spices. And you too can become that hero who avoided MSG. Here's a preview of what I have for you coming up on Saturday.
Park are training the and two things come to mind: an inexhaustible breakfast called the Grand Slam, and a seemingly impossible problem called racism. Denny's minority customers complained that they were told to show identification before being served, that they were asked to wait longer than white customers to be seated, and then were seated in segregated areas. And some said they were asked to pay for their meals in advance. After several racial discrimination lawsuits, Denny's embarked on what may be the largest racial sensitivity experiment in the country.
That's on Saturday. Turning around Denny's. I've watched the story several times, believe me. This has got racism written all over it. And maybe you too can learn. And maybe they'll take the Input Association test. If they do desire. That's on Saturday. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Friday going to Saturday. Maybe off on Saturday. But if we're off on Saturday, we'll see you again after Christmas. If I don't see you on Saturday, I want you guys to have a Merry Christmas. Actually, we'll see you again for Give Me a Break Saturday, the Christmas Eve edition. For all of us here at Give Me a Break and YouTube, I hope you had a great day. I hope you guys are staying warm out there. For all of us here at YouTube, we may talk about being home alone tomorrow. Good night, everyone.